Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for today's edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite yesterday, we had a lot of clouds here and a system moving in across mostly the southern part of the southeast coast, but precipitation extended all the way up across the northern areas. A trough bringing some light snow in across the central to the eastern interior and several bands here. Clearing out, drying out here, and cooling off back to the west on up to the western Arctic coast there. And then this frontal system, big low pressure area out over the western Bering, pushing the front eastward, but the main flow to the north there with the low center hanging back. And we'll see today that brought some mid and high level clouds, but you can tell the flow here from south to north. And a couple of waves, one moving up just east of the Perblofs, brought some snow there today, a couple inches, and a lot of showers back behind, but you can see mostly north of the Aleutians, and then the main low there and another trough swinging through the Shemya area. But pretty fair here, strong high pressure building in over the eastern and central interior areas, and high level moisture, this is all cirrus right through here. The main precipitation producing area is back out just along the coast and gradually shifting eastward here, but this just cloudiness in that area and clearing out over the panhandle and cooling off as really strong high pressure at the surface develops over northwest Canada as a strong upper level ridge builds right up across interior Alaska. And looking at this again, you can see the flow here, south to north flow, things out here sliding off to the southeast and high pressure building in with the low center again back out over the western Bering and staying there. So several impulses developing and moving northward along this frontal boundary. The one today, right about that area there, brought some snow to the Perblofs. Gusty winds here in the gradient in advance of the front, anywhere from 20 to 30, 35 miles an hour, in some cases gusts over 50 miles an hour, such as Tin City there in the Bering Strait reported, with, again, the precipitation right back along the coastline here, much lighter, except for a narrow band of some clouds and showers, snow showers that were a little more organized this morning. That's about all dissipated now. High pressure here, 1,040 millibars up over the eastern Arctic coast, and that northeast flow drying it out and cooling it off here over the southeast coastal areas. A couple of showers early, they've moved out now, and it's going to stay dry there for the next couple of days. And for tonight, the front edges its way up to the coastline, and that advances the precipitation eastward. Rain, for the most part, Bristol Bay, definitely for the Alaska Peninsula. Some of that may work on up to southern Kodiak Island, but up across south central Alaska, fair skies and breezy conditions and cool and dry over the panhandle with increasing winds here. In fact, there are winter storm warnings out for an area from Kotzebue down to Nome, Kivalina, and into the west central interior, McGrath in that area, as well as the lower Koyukuk and mid Yukon Valley areas for anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of snow with these gusty winds of 15 to 30 miles an hour, occasional gusts high as 50 miles an hour. They'll create snow and blowing snow. So those warnings out for these areas starting tonight and into tomorrow. Now with that mild southeast wind, that precipitation will be more of a mixed nature, rain and snow mix up in across the Kuskokwim Delta, gradually working northward. Another system down here to the south looked pretty good on the satellite. Forecast to weaken as it moves northward. So right now it looks like that'll keep the winds in the small craft advisory range tomorrow for the Perloff Islands, and could be a little stronger if it holds together a little bit better. But also up here along the Alaska or the Brooks Range, winter weather advisories out there. Less snow than the warning areas are, but still going to be pretty windy, especially through the passes. And then a high wind warning is out for the Alaska Range west of the Toe Cutoff starting tomorrow, Sunday here, and continuing through Monday for occasional gusts as high as 70 miles per hour. Of course, Delta is one of the windy area locations in that zone. And you can see tomorrow the front pushing inland a little bit here, so the precipitation will be shifting from west to east, pretty light on the eastern side here, and not much getting past the Alaska Range, but the southeast flow definitely lowering the clouds and could get a little damp along the southern Kenai Peninsula, and some of that actually could slip on up into the western Prince William Sound area during the afternoon hours. IFR occasionally there, Kodiak Island rain, moderate to heavy at times, or possibly heavy, more light to moderate. High pressure building in behind here over the eastern Bering Sea. And with that high there and this low scooting up to the north, if it weakens this much, well, then small craft advisories look pretty good. Could be a little stronger here over the Pueblos with some rain and snow showers moving on up. Lots of snow and blowing snow up here over the northwest interior with those warning areas. But along and north of the Brooks Range, rain shadow effect, so this area of snow probably will be farther back to the west than what I've got shown there. And dry conditions, and it looks kind of brisk up there in the eastern Arctic coastal areas, and gusty northeast winds here, possibly as high as 50 miles an hour, and gusts across the southeast coast, but nothing too terrible there, just dry conditions and chilly. For the Monday outlook, that first front here dissipates, swings up to the north, still a band of areas of light snow up over the Seward Peninsula, north to possibly the Noatak Valley, definitely back across Selawik and Kobuk valleys, and on down to where just some scattered rain and snow showers will be occurring. But again, the strong high pressure here beginning to recede off to the southeast a little bit, but holding strong enough. We have quite a gradient here, so pretty gusty winds, storm force winds from the Barren Islands, possibly out along the North Gulf Coast during the day Monday, with rain moving northward and northwestward and extending all along the Alaska Peninsula here. More of a mixed condition again up over the interior, and a lot of showers back out to the west, and winds diminish now for the Brooks Range, as well as they won't end altogether, but they should come down Monday from what you'll see Sunday and Sunday night there for the Alaska Range here on the eastern areas. And those warnings probably will drop, definitely drop the advisories for the Brooks Range area, and should be down out of the warning areas here for most of those areas to the west and northwest. Otherwise, this front will continue to push mild air northward Monday evening and into Tuesday. Temperatures today is a -3 at Gulkana. These are all 4 o'clock readings, with lower to mid 30s to lower 40s there. Ketchikan 43 degrees this afternoon, 28 up at Skagway, 19 below at Fairbanks, with quite a range here to 14 above it over at Delta. Then back down to -15 at Eagle, with a 20 below reading at, I think that's Anaktuvik, with -9 at Arctic Village, and kind of a chilly day up there along the Arctic coast with upper -20s for the afternoon temperatures. Again at 4 p.m., 27 below at Barrow to -6 at Point Hope, and 4 degrees there at Kotzebue, 7 Shishmaref, 22 at Nome, mid-30s St. Lawrence Island, and mid-20s here from St. Michael on down to the Sleepmute area, with a 32 right at the freeze mark at St. Mary's. Macoriac 34 degrees, and 16 at McGrath, same thing in Talkeetna. And out along the coast, mid to upper 30s there, 30 degrees King Salmon, but quite a range over the Alaska Peninsula from the mid 30s to the mid 40s, 39 on Alaska. Pretty uniform temperatures in the upper 30s out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for the lows tonight, quite cold, anywhere from 15 to 30 below here over the northeast interior, and things contrasted from northeast to southwest with the 0-degree isotherm from the Noatak Valley right down across the northern Kuskokwim and then along the Tanana Valley or the Alaska Range. -20s here over the eastern interior, Northway, Tok, possibly Eagle. 30s above freezing under mild southeasterly winds here for the southwest coast, Kodiak Island, lows near 40 for Alaska Peninsula, and the southeast coast getting a little chillier here, lower teens to mid 30s to the south. And highs tomorrow, mid 20s to mid 30s in the southern areas there, likely pushing up toward 40 degrees. Below zero here over the northeast interior, but slipping above for the eastern zones, and then upper 30s to lower 40s over the southwest, and the Seward Peninsula rising into the lower 30s there at Nome. Same thing for Savunga and Gamble. Unalaska, high tomorrow, forecast right around 40. Flying weather, VFR in the east, and this will be ending early up here, this marginal VFR. Those south winds will clear that out quite rapidly, and this stuff will be barely hanging onto the coast with the offshore flow there, but along and south of the western Brooks Range, marginal VFR. In fact, there could be some areas of IFR here in the upslope areas as well. Definitely IFR, Bering Strait, right down the southwest coastline, and again, the upslope areas of the Alaska Range. I think there'll be a little more of this pushing into Kodiak Island in the afternoon and towards evening tomorrow. And then this low, responsible for the stuff out here, that may push some VFR conditions possibly into the Pribilof Islands. And the Aleutian is looking pretty good, as well as areas from Prince William Sound all the way down to the Dixon Entrance and Queen Charlotte's. Eastern interior looking really good. And only the southern Kenai Peninsula here probably dropping down to marginal VFR. And again, that might work up into western Prince William Sound, and deteriorating conditions for the Alaska Range with marginal VFR. For the Anatuvik Pass, wide open on both approaches there. Same thing for Adigan, continued VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR becoming marginal again throughout the day, and could become lowest here on the eastern entrances with rainy, same pattern. VFR to start with, gradually lowering throughout the day. And for windy, VFR the entire day, just increasing clouds, but they'll stay high enough not to drop you into a marginal condition. Isabel, good VFR, and Montasta, wide open. Tenedo will stay VFR, and Portage open for the most part, but again, in the afternoon or throughout the day, increasing threats of going marginal on that eastern entrance. For Chilkoot and White, VFR. For freezing levels, 2,000 feet here, poking up into the interior, 4,000 feet down toward Kodiak Island. Icing with the front coming inland, areas of possible moderate from Kodiak Island on up into the Kobuk Valley, and then back along the northwest coast, a break, and some more icing threats of a less heavier or more of a mixed nature out to the west. And there's that strong ridge building northward. You can see the jet arcing way up, 130 knots across Seward Peninsula tomorrow, one jet max up and over, and then back down, dragging the cold air into from the eastern interior down across the Panhandle. 9,000 feet, strong southeast winds, 50 to 65 knots across Kodiak Island, diminish over the western interior, then take off from the southwest, 30 to 40 knots across the Arctic coast, up to 50 knots here over the western areas. And 45 knots at 3,000 feet, same pattern here, southeasterlies, 45 to 50 knots in across the Barren Islands and the Kenai Peninsula. And again, could see 50-knot winds coming up with this system as it pulls northward across the Pribilofs, and northeast winds 15 to 25 over the Panhandle. Moderate chop, northern southeast coast, big area here from the interior down across Kodiak Island, also along the Brooks Range and northward, and some more out over the Bering Sea. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Jim Peranto. Ever wonder what it would be like to have a one-stop go-to place for all your ocean data needs? Well, you're in luck. There's a place called the Alaska Ocean Observing System, or AKwx, and it's an impressive system that Alaskans can use to get information about past, present, and future ocean conditions for their local areas. And today, I have the director of AKwx, Molly McCammon. Thank you for coming in, Molly.
Thanks, Jim.
So what exactly is AKwx?
What AKwx is trying to do is do for ocean conditions what the Weather Service did for weather conditions. Basically take things that local governments are doing, that the federal agencies are doing, that the states are doing, and try to integrate them, pull them together, and make more out of all those various pieces.
So what are the goals for AKwx?
Well, the goals are to make information more accessible, to find out what users of the marine environment really need. How do they make decisions, and then develop products to meet those needs. Mm-hmm. And so the goals can range from providing a more safe marine environment, information that will allow people to be safer, to improve oil spill response, to improve fisheries management, even improve aviation flying over marine areas.
So describe some of the unique challenges to Alaska in trying to implement a system up here, because it's totally different than some of the regional observation systems in the lower 48.
Well, anyone dealing with the Weather Service here in Alaska knows that we're dealing with just kind of a small amount of observations compared to the lower 48 and outside. So that's one of the challenges that we have is we don't have a lot of buoys in the water. We don't have a lot of radar systems. So we're really, in a lot of ways, starting from scratch. We have 43,000 miles of coastline. More than half of the entire United States combined. So we have a huge challenge. We have extreme weather conditions. We have remote power sources. We don't have roads along our coastline with a lot of, kind of plug in and play type operations. So trying to do something that's sustainable, that's operational, that gives real-time information to customers across the state, it's really difficult and challenging up here. Plus we have winter weather, we have sea ice conditions, we have all of those things.
You told me that you are investing heavily in a data management system with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Now, why is that?
When you look at what we're trying to do, which is pull in what all the agencies and all the various entities are doing, key to that is what we call an integrated data management system, kind of that one-stop shopping area. So you have one website where you can go and you can get information that National Data Buoy Center is collecting. You can get information that USGS is collecting. You can get information that the university is collecting. And we try to pull those in together and then develop products. Something as simple as measuring ocean temperature, you think, oh, that'd be easy. Everybody should be able to do that the same. But do you collect it in centigrade or Fahrenheit? Do you collect it in the morning or at night? Do you collect it at the surface or below the surface? And you start looking at how people are collecting all these bits of information, and that whole data piece is really one of the biggest challenges that we have.
Talk to us about the Prince William Sound pilot project. What are you trying to do with that?
With Prince William Sound, we took kind of a small tractable area and one that had already quite a bit of infrastructure in place. A lot of that is the legacy of the Exxon Valdez oil spill in 1989. A lot of it is just due to the fact of the tanker traffic there. But we thought if we can show and figure out what the issues are in a smaller area, then maybe we could scale it up and add on Cook Inlet, add on Southeast, add on the Bering Sea. So we started with Prince William Sound, and we took what were the existing kind of observing platforms, the buoys there. We're adding below surface instruments to the Weather Service buoys there. We're adding additional weather stations, SNOTEL sites, because they give a better gauge of the fresh water that's going into the system. We're doing boat surveys across the Sound on a regular basis. And part of this, we're testing how does it work, and is it cost effective, and are we really delivering the kinds of products that people want to use?
And there's an ecological side to this too. It's not just a weather thing. I mean, you're putting this instrumentation in Prince William Sound to see how things are affected, in the marine environment. Right? You
start first with the physical pieces. So you want winds, waves, currents, salinity, temperature, just some of those, oxygen, some of those basic things. Then you start adding on the pieces of nutrients, phytoplankton, zooplankton. How does this affect fisheries production? How is this going to affect the oyster farms in Prince William Sound? How is this affecting seabirds, marine mammals? You kind of layer on top of that. But kind of the basic, you have to have that kind of that key area of winds, waves, currents.
Right. So what other efforts are you engaged in across the state?
Well, this state is huge. And so we have the Prince William Sound project and our data system. We have a radar site in Barrow that we've been helping to fund so that people in Barrow, the whaling community in particular, can see what the ice conditions are like, right outside their front door, and see if it's safe to get on the ice there, and also see if there's going to be those breakout conditions where they have ice that comes out over the road or over the runways. We have some moorings in the Aleutian Passes. A lot of the water that is in the Alaska coastal current actually goes through those passes and is now going into the Bering Sea, warming the Bering Sea, and then going north through the Bering Strait, warming the Arctic Ocean, and then ending up in the Atlantic. Wow. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I know I've seen some things about deep ocean currents and how that all gets translated around the world. That's pretty fascinating stuff.
And people are real concerned about the potential impacts of climate change. Yeah. So knowing what's happening with ocean conditions is really important for our fisheries production. It's important to know what's happening with sea ice conditions, which affects oil and gas development, shipping,
subsistence living.
Yep. All those things are really, really key.
Okay, bottom line, why is AKwx such an important system?
I think you just have to look out your window, and almost everyone in Alaska either lives on the ocean or they live on a river system that flows into the ocean. We are deeply connected to ocean. It's the source basically of our weather and climate change. It's the source of fish, which sustains a lot of us up here. And we need to do a much better job of knowing what's going on with it so we can make wise decisions about how we use it.
Very well put. You're advertising AKwx as a user-driven system. So what does that mean?
When a lot of times when you get scientists in a room, they kind of go, well, this is what we don't know and this is what we want to know. We've done it a different way. We've gone to the community, and the community is very broad. So it includes the research community, but it's also resource managers, it's subsistence users, it's commercial fishermen, recreational boaters, industries, and say, how do you make your decisions? What do you need? Where do you think you're most vulnerable? Just as an example, we went to some of the air taxi operators in Prince William Sound, and they said, I wake up in the morning, I have to look at 12 different websites because I'm looking at webcams and getting weather information. Gee, I'd like to have that on one page. Mm-hmm. And so we developed a custom page for them that you can see all the webcams for Prince William Sound. You know what the weather is like in Whittier, Cordova, Valdez. You can make a decision on how you're going to operate that day.
That's outstanding. I have a feeling that we'll be using that at the Weather Service office
I
too.
think so.
Might be bookmarking that website. Well, thank you for coming in today, Molly, and sharing your knowledge about AKwx. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you would like to find out more information about this wonderful system, check out their website. It's www.aoos.org. You can also contact Molly at their Anchorage headquarters at 1007 West 3rd Avenue, and that's Suite 100, again right here in Anchorage. Thank you for joining us here on Alaska Weather Facts. Until next time.
Welcome back. Northeast winds 20 to 25 knots tomorrow with higher gusts out of the bays all the way down the coastline. About the same over the inside waters, really variable depending on where you are, both direction and speed. Say north 30 for Lynn Canal with higher gusts, all areas. And then for Monday, as that area high pressure, the highest pressures slide off to the southeast, these winds are going to be veering back around to the more of an easterly or even east-southeast direction here with something of a trough swinging northward. Those winds for Lynn Canal Glacier Bay trying to go more southerly, but definitely coming down 15 to 20 knots. Still the higher gusts in all these areas, but nothing too terribly strong. And then for the tomorrow, North Gulf Coast, gales out all the way down across Kodiak Island. Easterlies 20 knots from northern Cook Inlet, or 15 to 20 knots, as high as 40 knots in the Kamishak Bay area, maybe 30 for Shelikof Strait. And for Monday, storm warnings here for the Barren Islands, possibly Kamishak Bay. Gales all around Kodiak Island with good gales here across the North Gulf Coast, and winds 25 knots or higher for Prince William Sound. With, of course, you get toward the southern sound, there'll probably be some gales moving in. East 25 to northeast 35 for Cook Inlet. Bristol Bay, gale warnings tomorrow out of the east, northeasterlies 25 to 35 for the peninsula, southeast 40, southwest of Kodiak. Monday, gales continue for Bristol Bay and southeast 40, southwest of Kodiak, northeast to east 30, small craft advisories for the peninsula. For the Aleutians, easterlies 15 to 20 to 25 knots in some cases, but lighter to the west, and then southwest 30 for Shemya. But those winds drop off considerably, 15 knots to maybe 20 knots south of Adak and Atka, 20 to 25 knot winds from the northeast and north for the eastern Aleutians. And for the southwest coast, east 10 knots to southwest 15 to 25 for St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisories here in the Bering Sea. And then those swing around to the northeast here at about 20 knots with 35 knot winds Cape Newenham on southeastward, lighter winds over the north. For the Arctic coast, gale warnings out on the east side, brisk wind advisories here for the central and western areas, and then back into the gales for the Chukchi Sea down to the Bering Strait and Kotzebue Sound. And Monday, west-southwest, the winds swing around actually as early as Sunday evening, westerlies. 25 knots covers it pretty well at this point, and then getting a little more variable back to east 15 to 20. And for tonight, again, a high wind watch out starts late this evening for Bristol Bay, at which time it'll either get dropped or just a headline or kicked into a warning. So rain and snow with milder conditions moving northward. Winter weather advisories out here, St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula inland. Tomorrow as the moisture moves in. A lot of wind, as high as 50 miles an hour in gusts. High wind warning along the Alaska Range starts tomorrow and continues through Monday with the tightening gradient. Strong high pressure, over 31 inches over northwest Canada, and then these series of systems moving northward along that frontal boundary. And one winds up pretty good here. This front kind of breaks up over the interior with some leftover moisture and more rain and wind moving into Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and the Kenai Peninsula as well. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Independent Lens brings us together
How you gonna change it? How you gonna make your story better?
and ignites conversations with community cinema. Coming this season, A Path Appears from the creators of Half the Sky, American Denial, The Homestretch, Limited Partnership,